you join me as we're about to get going on our very first F4 race. This is Misano, and I've never launched this car, so we're going to see how this goes. Keeping the revs a little high, getting a little bit of wheel spin off the start line as we gain a position, but we're lost a bit of time to the cars in front coming into turn 1. We're going to see if we can brake a little later than they do, hang it around the outside of this car on the inside for turn 2. Sneaking up the inside as that McLaren livery car just kind of tries to keep it around the outside. We're going to come into this double right-hander, still around the outside. We're going to kind of brake a little early, cold tires, don't want to have an issue or spin. Car behind us closes right up, and we're going to settle in a little bit here, try and see what happens, get the tires up to temperature and try not to make any mistakes. This left-hander coming up, I made a couple of mistakes in practice, just pushing a little too hard, braking a little bit too late. As we can see up ahead, a car spins out, another car kind of going wide, so we close up to the pack again. We're up to 9th. We did start in 11th on this race. Completely messed up my qualifying, spun twice, car locks up. We're trying to go up the inside of this green car. We got the inside for the right-hander down the kink at the end of this straight for the double kink. So while we're side by side here, and he probably has a little bit more speed, we do have the advantage coming into this kink here, into the next kink. So as we come into this kink before the sharp right-hander, he's going to back out and we get a position done that way. So good run down that back straight. Coming into this hairpin, you can see two cars collide, gaining another 2 positions. We're already up to 6th. So went from 11 to 6 basically in 1 lap. So I'm quite happy with that. It was a good start. We avoided any incidents. We avoided spinning out. We are getting our tires up to temperature. So very happy with that first lap. You can't complain when you gain, let's say, 5 or 6 positions. You've avoided any incidents. You've no contact. You haven't ran wide, and you haven't lost out in any positions. And your tires are getting up to temperature. So coming down into this double right-hander, into the sharp left before the sharp left-hander, we're going to brake, cut the corner a little bit. I tried to do something a little different on this lap. I was watching one of the faster guys in qualifying. He took that corner in 3rd gear. I normally take it in 2nd, sorry. So I tried it in 3rd. I just felt I lost a lot of time. You can see I lost a little bit of time to the guy in front. So we had a double spin here, had to go evasive. My initial reaction was the car spinning on the right. I was going to cut back and keep it tight to the apex, and then saw the second car spinning. So I had to kind of thread the needle there. Gained 2 easy positions. They didn't actually collide. The first car spun, the other car went up the inside and spun in sympathy, and I just watched it unfold. So very happy that I could gain another 2 easy positions there. And this was top split for this time of night. It was, I think, 1.8k strength of field, so my iRating on open wheels is around 1.8k, so you can see I'm car number 5 here, so being in 4th, I'm already doing better than what I should be based on my iRating. So very happy with that opening 2 laps. We're coming up to this last corner. Another corner I found tricky in practice, just because it's a bit easier to see here, but in VR it was very blinding. It was, if you see the sun memes around Sebring into the last corner, it wasn't as bad as that, but it definitely was for the first initial turn in onto that corner where you just turn it. I was always kind of just guessing. It was always just like turn and hope the car is not going to clip the curb on the inside and spin out. And I kind of got a rhythm for it, so I was able to keep the car turning in at the same point every time, even if I was kind of unsighted with the sun. So we're coming down the kind of middle straight, as I call it. We're 4.5 or 6.5 seconds behind Kevin, where we've got a 5.6 second gap to the car behind. We're going to see if we can put in some fast laps and catch up to the guys in front while pulling away from the car behind. This was a corner I practiced a bunch with. I know from racing here in the Ferrari series that I want to take a slightly later apex, but in the F4 I was taking an even later apex, and maybe I needed to do that in the Ferrari and just wasn't doing it. But the F4 just felt better coming down this straight, and I gained a lot more time when I was apexing later. This was a kind of a tricky corner also. It's like very light brake. You're going to feel the back end try to swap ends on you, and you just kind of almost float the car through. You're not turning, you're just making adjustments as the car kind of just slides a little bit. In the Ferrari, you do have to kind of do something similar, but it's definitely not as fast and definitely not as committed as you are in the F4. The F4 is a slightly faster car, so you definitely have to be more committed, especially in this corner, the first and second corner. You really have to throw it in here and just, it'll bite, and the back end on this car has a lot of grip, and I didn't realize how much grip it had. Maybe it's more how little grip the Ferrari has in comparison, but the F4 definitely felt more planted, and I felt a lot more comfortable just getting on the accelerator. And I'm worried about going back to the Ferrari. The next track, I was actually mistaken in the last video, is not Interlagos, it is Monza Combined, which a track I've driven on, but I'm worried because I kind of got used to the F4 from practicing, that I hope when I go back to the Ferrari I don't struggle with traction now again, because Monza has a couple of really slow corners coming out of like chicanes and stuff. So we'll see. We'll do a little bit of practice this week. This week's going to be a short week for me. I'm traveling, so it's going to be difficult to get many races in, and practice is going to be key to just make sure I am familiar with the two different cars that I'm racing. I tried out this F4 series for a bit of fun. As I said in the last race, I was just not quite feeling the fun with the Ferrari. Maybe I was taking it a bit too serious, so I wanted to kind of reset my brain and do something different. And I had done a bunch of race 1600 races previously, so the next step was the F4, and this week it just happened to be in Misano, a track I actually really like, so I said I'd give it a shot, and it was fun. It was a fun practicing. I loved hot lapping this car. The race was, as you can see, I'm kind of caught in no man's land here, so it definitely wasn't the most entertaining. The first two laps were very entertaining, just getting used to racing side by side with people, and I think people will definitely give you a little more space in the F4. Maybe it's just this isolated or kind of like race, but I felt like people gave you a bit more space than they do in the Ferrari series. Maybe it's because it's open wheels, and if you collide you're just either spinning out or flipping or something much worse. So I felt like there was a bit more kind of space given when you're going side by side. The only thing I had to adjust to though was sometimes if I'm coming into a braking zone for the first time behind a car and I have not kind of got a feel for where they brake, whether they're kind of an early braker or a late braker, so I would use their brake lights in the Ferrari to kind of judge that. But the F4 has no brake lights, so it was a kind of adjustment period, getting used to braking behind a car and using the judgment of seeing the car slow down and kind of that gap closing rather than using a brake light to give you an indicator. So definitely something to adjust to with these open wheel cars, but definitely a lot of fun, and I would highly recommend doing the F4 series. It was definitely fun. I'm going to see if I can do a couple of more races in the F4 going forward, and yeah, it was a fun car. I enjoyed driving it. It was definitely planted, but you kind of have to slide it a little bit in some corners to get the most out of it, and you definitely have to believe the car is going to just grip. Getting used to like proper aero. I know the Ferrari is a GT3 car, so it has a little bit, but nothing in comparison to this car. So this car felt like I really had to just carry speed through slow corners, even when my brain was telling me it's never going to bite and you're never going to, get yourself around the corner. But for some reason, just coming into the corner, letting off the brake a little earlier and then flooring the accelerator, the back end was planted, so I wasn't fearing for the car slipping out. But that's where you gain a lot of lap time, and I noticed that pretty quickly, that I have to be committed in almost every corner. This is a corner where I had to be very committed as well, because you've got a very long straight and immediately afterwards, so you have to be committed on the apex and accelerating as quickly as early as possible. And something weird I noticed in practice as well is you really can, I know from the 296 series that you can really cut corners and really run over the curves, but the F4 just seemed to be, especially turns 1 and 2, I felt like I was cutting those corners, but I wasn't getting any off tracks, no slowdowns, nothing. So I mean, track limits are track limits, so you just you go with them, especially somewhere like here where it just felt like I was always past the white line with 4 wheels, but for some reason it wasn't penalizing me. You can see here that's probably my normal Ferrari line, but here I just felt like turn 2 I was just cutting it every time. So definitely something I learned for next time I'm here in the 296 series to try it out. I didn't cut the corners as, let's say, as sharply as I am in the F4 as you're seeing here, but yeah, something to note for the Ferrari series that you can really cut those corners. But yeah, we're kind of stuck in no man's land for the foreseeable future. I'm not gaining any time on Kevin, but I am gaining time on Fernando behind. So as the field spreads out and I'm trying to bang in lap time after lap time, it's not really working. These guys were definitely faster than I was. They had a pretty good iRating in comparison to my own, so I'm not too displeased with being in 4th position right now. I'm pretty happy, actually, to be honest with you. I've exceeded expectations. Maybe I could have been up with them if I kind of hung on to the back of them with some slipstream if I had started higher. But as I said, I spun out on each lap. 2 different corners randomly, and corners I'd never spun on in practice. So in qualifying, it just was, maybe I was pushing too hard and it just kind of all went a bit pear-shaped. So yeah, just wasn't happy with qualifying, but was determined to make the race work and to see if I can gain back positions as best I could, and very happy to be up to 4th right now. And if the race was to end right now, I would be happy with taking 4th position. It was coming from 11th to 4th, gaining 7 positions. I know there's a couple of spins and people taking each other out, but that's racing and that happens. You've got to be in a position to take advantage of those mistakes by others, and I definitely was, as I missed the apex here. But yeah, the F4, interesting car. The braking on this, there's no ABS, so I had to adjust my braking a little bit. I was definitely braking a little lighter and trying to feel for that threshold point. I also had to adjust my haptics, the SimMagic haptic reactors in SimHub. I had to really tweak with them because I was fully locking up and my brake pedal wasn't vibrating at all. And I now have a different profile for the Ferrari as I have for the F4, but I definitely had to make a lot of tweaks. There's also tweaks to the wheel slip on the rear for the accelerator because I use a lot of that to feel where I'm on the limit with the 296, but with the F4 it was vibrating constantly, especially in like corners like that one, and then coming through here it would be vibrating like constantly, and the left hander up here was vibrating, and I'm like, this is just getting annoying. I feel like I have grip, but there might be wheel slip, and I'm not entirely sure. I read up that iRacing doesn't necessarily send the data for that, so SimHub is kind of, for want of a better word, anticipating it or kind of predicting it. So I tweaked around with the settings, and it's still not perfect. I definitely feel like everything's still vibrating either a little too early or a little too late. Like my brake, I feel like it's vibrating a little too late, and my accelerator is still vibrating a little too early. So I need to tweak and tune those a little bit going forward for the F4s and have separate profiles. I may even tweak the 296 a little bit. I've been meaning to kind of tweak the brake and the accelerator a little bit. I want the brake a little later on that one, and I want the accelerator possibly a little later as well, possibly even a little earlier. I'm not sure. I haven't decided on that because in the 296 I wanted to kick in when I'm accelerating, but I'm losing traction out of the slower corners, but it seems to kick in a lot on medium speed corners when you're sliding the car through. So it's about balance, and it's something that I have to tweak with my settings. And don't get me wrong, I find them very helpful, and that it took me a while to actually feel like I got a benefit from them, because when I first put them on my sim rig and started racing in them, and I was relying on my usual braking points and visual cues, everything was vibrating, and I was thinking, oh my god, this just isn't giving me any feedback that's worthwhile. So I've been tweaking and tuning and getting it to a place where it helps my brain, because I use some settings from some other people, some people I saw on YouTube, and some kind of Reddit posts and stuff, and that might work for them, but it wasn't working for me. I felt like it was kicking way too early on the accelerator and way too late on the brake and stuff like that. So, but yeah, the haptics definitely made me more consistent overall. I just mainly need to tweak them a little bit just to get them exactly where I want for the F4 versus the Ferrari. So this is the last lap. It's been a bit of a lonely race. There's a bit of a big gap between myself and the car in front and myself and the car behind. Definitely one of those races where it was kind of turned into a bit of a practice session, but I'm happy with coming fourth in this race. No incidents happened towards the end of this lap, so I'm happy to finish fourth overall. And I quite enjoyed the F4, so there might be a couple of more races going forward. I also realized that when I was editing this video, the screen got a little dirty on the visor, so I need to bind a button for the tear-offs. It wasn't showing up on VR, or at least I didn't notice it, so something going forward, I'll do that for clarity on the videos. But yeah, I'm going to have the results shortly, guys, as we cross the line, but hope to see you in the upcoming videos. There may be another F4 race or Ferrari. I'm not sure which one's going to get out first, but if you like this video, comment, like, subscribe. You know the drill. It all helps the channel. Seen a bunch of new subscribers, so welcome, guys, and I hope to see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one. I did. Definitely going to try some F4 going forward, so see you in the next one.